Welcome to Beware Spoilers. I am Adam,
And I'm Josie.
and we are here for a very special and long-awaited episode. I mean, I don't know who's awaiting it besides, I don't know, like
You?
me. Yeah, I guess me. So what we have is we're going to rank Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because Phase 4 has come to an end. And we're going to look ahead to Phase 5 because I do have notes for Phase 5 too for what's coming, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Let me scroll down because of my thing. Uh, there we go. Okay, so Phase 4 rankings. So, what were your overall thoughts with Phase 4? With Phase 4 being from Black, well, I mean, technically, I think we'll count it from WandaVision being the start because WandaVision came out first. So, from WandaVision through the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special.
Um, what were my overall thoughts on it?
Yeah,
Some really good things and some really not so good things. Like we got some really cool things out of it, but then we also got some really bad things out of this whole phase.
like for me, it's like when I look back at Phase 1, which was Iron Man through the Avengers, it's
Mhm.
not great, a lot of it.
But those are ones that I've rewatched and probably would rewatch, where a lot of these I've not rewatched,
I think a lot of
and
this
I don't
is
plan to.
the shows make it hard to rewatch because there's
Hmm.
just so much. And
Yeah.
there's a lot you got to sit through. And we'll get to that because there are a few shows that I have thoughts where it's like you got to sit through a lot to get to the part that's interesting and
And some
fun
of them
about
are just hard to digest.
it.
Like
Yeah.
it's too in depth.
Yeah. But I think it's an interesting experiment. And if this is the format they're going to go with going forward, I think it could work with I just think they weren't prepared for the jump to TV, and you can kind of tell that through the shows. And a lot of the movies were just reestablishing where everyone is. It's kind of like, Endgame was this big be all end all thing where it's like this is reshaping the universe as we know it, and we have to kind of deal with that. But then where is everyone after that? And it's kind of just laying the groundwork of where everyone is to kind of reset the battlefield, so to say, where it's like here are all the people, here's who you need to know, and from here on it'll make more sense. But for right now, we're just setting up who everyone is.
Hmm.
Um, But I mean, hopefully it gets better. I mean, I don't think anything here was truly terrible. Like there are shows that I liked a lot less than others, but even they had their moments, like they had their charm to them.
No, I guess there's nothing that's like that was awful. There just was like
Varying
a lot of
degrees of
filler that wasn't
yes,
interesting,
yes. I think Miss Marvel's probably the worst offender of that, if I'm being honest.
of just
Um,
being boring as all heck.
and the thing is too, like Iman Vellani is great in that show.
Hmm.
Like she's so fun to watch. You can tell she's having a great time. It's
She's
just
the only thing that saves it, really.
yeah, and it's like if that casting doesn't work, then that show is just abysmal. And like Moon Knight too, it's just boring slot. And we'll get to it when we get to the rankings. But like those shows have these slow moments, and
And
like
it's like they chose these great actors and actresses and just hoped that they would be enough to fill this and create something good out of it, even with shitty scripts.
and to an extent they were right. I mean, to an extent they were. They did have like I think Moon Knight only works because of Oscar Isaac's performance.
Hmm.
And I think that if it's not him, then who else? I mean, um, but yeah, let's get into the rankings. So what we did was we took all of the properties and ranked them first to second. Now, Josie did not see Wakanda Forever. Um, and
That's true.
all that's going to do is put Wakanda Forever substantially lower than where it would be because we gave it 0 points for her because she didn't see it. She couldn't rank it. So because of that, it just has my score for it, which puts it kind of mid tier, but we'll address that when we get to it. And I'll try not to spoil it for her because she hasn't seen it, and you're not going to see it till it goes to Disney Plus, I assume, right?
Not necessarily.
Because Avatar's this weekend, so get ready for that.
I'm actually excited about it.
It is 3 hours and 8 minutes long, and I'm like, why the fuck does this need to be 3 hours and 8 minutes long? And it's like, and that's not even the only 3 hour long movie that I still have to watch before the end of the year because Babylon is also 3 hours and change. And I'm like, why the fuck is Babylon 3 hours and change? But let's get into the rankings. So we have the point systems, and what we did was we added up her score and my score to give us a composite of the two, and we'll just rank it from there.
Okay.
Now the lowest in this number is actually a tie. For the lowest numbers, 18 and 17 are tied. It's Moon Knight and Miss Marvel tied for the bottom of the list. They both got 5 points. You gave it 4 points. I gave it one for Moon Knight. For Miss Marvel, I gave it four. You gave it one.
Mm-hmm.
So both got 5 points. Now, I should have brought this up before we started, but if you have any thoughts while I find the document I have that I did for the Smithtown Chronicle,
I think
um,
the entirety of phase four was difficult to rank from, in a number order instead of like a ranking of tier. Like all these fit together in how much we liked them, and then the next tier higher would be like, oh, these ones kind of are a little better. But
please ignore the 9 million pop-ups that just popped up when I opened this because I didn't close out of Word properly. So everything I had open in Word popped open at once. Um, okay, so for Moon Knight, what I had was it kind of retreads a lot of the same ground as Captain America and Winter Soldier. Because the fundamental plot is you have Amit, whose entire thing is they want to judge the wicked before they commit their offense, and then they want to and smite them before they can do whatever they're going to do is wrong. And it's this whole idea of free will, which is kind of a weird overriding theme throughout the entirety of Phase Four. I don't know if you noticed that, but there's a lot of movies and shows that have to do with free will and whether or
mm-hmm.
not people have free will. And we'll get to that as we go through because that was a big part of Moon Knight, and it's just not as well executed as um as the Winter Soldier was. And then on top of it, I really had a problem with the end of the show where the fight comes down to this big CGI clusterfuck fight that doesn't look great between Khonshu and Amit.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, the fight between Harrow and Moon Knight, we never see the actual resolution of. It's done off screen during dissociative identity blackout. Like, do you remember that? Like
No.
Arthur has him, and then they black out, and Arthur's got the shit kicked out of him, and you don't see what happened because both of them blacked out, and it's Jake Lockley who took over. And it's like, okay, but that's not a good way to resolve the plot of this. At least show us Jake do that so we can see what kind of person Jake is. Um, and I think that's why it's down there so low. This is not the right article. Where is it? For Miss Marvel, I gotta scroll through and find them because it's slightly different. Um, I don't like Kamran's turn, and again, it's another CGI clusterfuck of a finale. Um, I don't think the flashback episode works as well. Like at least the flashback episode of Moon Knight was a little bit riveting and interesting. They don't do enough to make the flashback about Kamala's family interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't buy that Kamala's family being what it is would do that complete 180 turn at the end and give her a costume to go out and fight crime and just kind of be okay with it.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any other thoughts?
Um, I don't even remember how it ended.
Which one, Miss
That's how
Marvel?
unmemorable it was.
It's like because the thing is too, it's like
That's
the
I
second
gave
to
it a
last
one.
episode. Yeah, you did. The second to last episode is the one where they we see the flashback and then they open the portal to like the dimension of the Jinn and
Mm-hmm.
like all the clandestine go through it for some reason and they all die. And it's like that feels like it should be where the show ends, but then there's another episode where they go back home and her other friend Kamran also has powers like her. So
No, I don't
yeah,
remember.
yeah, it's not a great finale, I don't think. Um, but yeah. So the next one up is Thor: Love and Thunder, which you ranked a lot higher than I did.
I thought it was cute.
Um,
There was a lot of cute things, a lot of cute movies and TV shows.
I don't think it's necessarily terrible. I say putting it down at number 16 on my ranking.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like there's too much going on for what this story should have been. Because if it is Gore the God Butcher coming after Thor, I think it works a little bit better if the fight is more centered on Gore's hatred of Thor and not Thor being a minor speed bump on the way to his ultimate goal.
No, I like that.
Oh, you like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I want because the thing is too, it's like with Endgame ending the way, and maybe this was me looking at what it could have been and being like, oh, this is what I would have done, and then it's like when it doesn't match up with that, and I hate being that person. But like with when we saw Infinity War, when he goes to Nidavellir and Peter Dinklage
Hmm.
just attacks him because Asgard was supposed to defend him, I was
Hmm.
hoping for something like that with Endgame, where it's like Endgame happens and it just he becomes Ronin basically. His entire family dies, and that's why he's out on this thing because Thor didn't help him. So now he's out on this thing trying to kill all the gods. I thought that would have been a better way to do it. But I think that making eternity kind of the focal point of it, like it increases the stakes to a needless degree and just kind of complicates things needlessly.
Hmm. I liked
Um,
it.
I like the design of eternity and all of that, but it's just kind of like I don't know. And I think it like shoots back and forth too much in tone.
I liked that Padme got ripped.
Yeah, I will give it to Natalie Portman for being exactly my type for the entirety of me knowing she existed. Um, because she looked great in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, we'll talk about it more on the other show when we talk about episode two, like way down the line. But like that movie was something for me in 2002. Um, yeah, so we'll talk about it a little bit down the line on that, and but yeah, that was something. But yeah, I mean, it again, it's not terrible. I'm not saying it's terrible, but it was for me the weakest of the movies. Um, and you haven't seen Wakanda Forever, so you can't speak to how you feel about that. The next one up is at 13 points. You gave it 7 points. I gave it six. WandaVision.
It wasn't good, but it wasn't bad. And it certainly wasn't good enough to be above a lot of other things.
I don't. I think a lot of it, and I wrote this when I did my thing for the Smithtown Chronicle about it. I said I think a lot of the love that this show got was that we were 1 year into the pandemic at that point, and we hadn't seen anything new from a major studio since like March.
Hmm.
Because like there was a lot of independent movies that went direct to streaming, and I know that like Bill and Ted I think was the big franchise thing, if you want to call it that, that went to a what's it called? That went to a streaming. Um, but we didn't have like there was no Marvel, there was no DC really, because like even like the shows that were ongoing from DC had production issues due to COVID. So this is just the first big thing. I think a lot of people was like, this is
Hmm.
something new to watch. And I think a lot of people had that. But like it takes 3 episodes you have to get through before you get to something happening on this show.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 episodes that they dumped at once were both the what were the two where it was like Dick Van Dyke and then like a '60s sitcom, and then they did the Brady Bunch era, and then that's when they kick out Geraldine, and then at that point you're like, okay, now something's happening, and then that episode after that's the one where they show the flashback of what's happening outside the town,
Hmm.
and it's like it's a lot to get through to get to that point.
It was really slow.
Yeah, I don't think that's the thing that keeps me rewatching it, and I think that the other issue I have with it is that I don't think that Wanda gets enough shit in the confines of this show for being overtly the bad guy.
No, I agree.
I think that even like ultimately when we get to Multiverse of Madness, that turn doesn't feel like it's earned. Like the turn that she makes in Multiverse of Madness to be the Scarlet Witch, after what we see her go through in WandaVision, doesn't feel right, and that's WandaVision's fault, not Multiverse of Madness's fault.
Hmm.
Because they should have laid it out a little bit better. Like they shouldn't have ended WandaVision on the note they did, because what it seems like is that she is, you know, she has moved past that. Like that's it's about her processing her grief. She has moved past it, and then we have that. I don't think
Yeah,
it's quite earned properly. Um, yeah, and it's just so slow.
it is. It's just very slow.
And the thing is too, I think I said this when I started reviewing it when it was coming out. If the Marvel Studios logo wasn't before the episode, the every episode, I would have dropped it after 2 episodes. I wouldn't have
Mm-hmm.
continued watching. If it wasn't already tied in and it was like you have to watch this for Multiverse of Madness, I
Yeah.
I wouldn't have continued on.
Well, I didn't finish it until I realized that I was going to need it for Multiverse Madness,
Yeah,
which
I
was,
don't think.
a long time after.
Yeah, exactly. It was because Multiverse of Madness was this year, so
Hmm.
yeah, it was like a full like 18 months after. Um, the next two are tied, which is kind of fitting because they both feature a character and a small cameo in common. They are Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now, I'm surprised you put Falcon and the Winter Soldier so low.
I didn't really like it. I thought it was another one that was just hard to chew through.
Um, I, for me, I think a lot of it came down. I think that there's a lot of it's very slow. I'm not saying it's not slow. What I am saying is the fifth episode for me is what makes the show work. Was 6 episodes, right? That sounds right. The fifth episode was the one that like kind of like was the thing that was like this is like I see what they're trying to do here. That's the
Hmm.
one where they go to Isaiah Bradley and he tells the story of what happened to him when he went and did the exact same thing Steve did, went to prison.
Hmm.
And it's like that whole episode being the philosophical debate about whether or not Sam should, take on the mantle. I think that was really strong. Um, I just think it's so far between action sequence. And the thing is too, it's like the imagery of the shield after the guy decapitates after Walker decapitates the guy with it
Hmm.
is great with the blood on it. Like that fight immediately after. That's how the fifth episode starts, is that fight where they gotta take the shield from him and they gotta like almost rip his arm off to get the shield off his arm. Like everything about that fifth episode just kind of worked so well. Um it kind of saved it for me, even if it is kind of slow. And I can't tell you too much of what happened besides Zemo being cool in episode 3.
Hmm.
And the whole thing with the Power Broker was ridiculous. I don't feel like there's necessarily enough time to. And the show does need a little bit. I give it a little leeway because the original plot line was that the Flag Smashers were going to unleash a virus to kill a lot of people, and then COVID hit, so they had to, while in mid production, rewrite it on the fly.
Hmm.
So I do give it a little bit of a handicap, so to speak, to use a golf term. But I don't know if it's necessarily something that I should be doing. Um, and Black Widow, I watched it recently. I couldn't tell you what happened in it.
I thought it was another one that was kind of cute.
I really like Florence Pugh, and I think that that's really what like we talked about. A lot of the new cast is really doing a lot of work to make the world better. Because I like when we get to the next one, I think that Florence Pugh was kind of the saving grace of the next one too. Um, but she's great, and I think that she kind of made that movie work. Um, I just wasn't a huge fan of like the scope of it, and then how much of this show is going to tie into Thunderbolt. It's kind of a little bit much for me.
Hmm.
Um, your thoughts?
I liked it. I thought it was cute, but I can't really remember too much about it or what it really added except for the new blonde girl.
That was Yelena. That was
Yes.
the entire thing, was introducing Yelena.
And it was
Um,
just cute. That's it.
their
Like there wasn't
relationship was
anything
great.
crazy. There was some really cool choreographed fight scenes.
And I really liked how they did Taskmaster too. Like, and it was subtle too, because Taskmaster, you can see as they're fighting, he does all of the other Avengers fight styles. So that's what Taskmaster does. Is in this case, she learns how they fight. So it's like as they're fighting, she's going in and out of like Hawkeye. She's going into and out of Black Widow, Spider Man, Black Panther, and it
Hmm.
just as needed during the fight. And it just kind of whoever choreographed deserves a lot of credit that for that.
Hmm.
Um,
I didn't notice, but
yeah.
that's cool.
And they're subtle about it too, because like you can see in one of the scenes, she's watching footage from what we know as the movies, because there's no way a fucking camera was there for a lot of this stuff. But you know, she's watching the footage from the movies to kind of like learn how to do it.
Hmm.
But that's always something that bugs me. It's like, well, we saw that as the audience, but we also have a certain omniscience that the characters don't have.
Hmm.
Like we're not watching Hawkeye jump off this building. There wasn't like a fucking drone there watching him jump off the building and shoot the arrow backwards in the Avengers. Um, but yeah, those two are down there. The next two are also tied. And they are, you can't really speak to one of them. One of them is Hawkeye. We're at 17 points now. So Hawkeye and Wakanda Forever are tied at 17 points. Because I had Wakanda Forever as number two. So because I had it at number two, it puts it way down. It puts it way up that high, purely based on having no other points for it. Um, and Hawkeye, I liked Kingpin. Like that was really cool for me.
That was
Like
cool.
like having him show up there, I was on board for that. And
That was
again, I
another
think
one that I liked. I just liked the court like the fight scenes.
yeah, it had some cool fight scenes. I could have done without Clint for I would say 95% of the show.
No, I liked him. I think he's cute.
Oh, okay.
Not
Um,
like not like that. I just mean he's cute. Like he's funny.
like because I think that like I think again, Haley Steinfeld was a great addition in
Hmm.
this one.
I
She's
thought she was
great.
very funny.
She's great. And her whole relationship with Yelena, like that elevator fight
Hmm.
is so well done because it's just like Yelena can kick the shit out of her,
Hmm.
but she's just not. She just keeps trying to press the buttons, and she's pushing her against the. It's so like that. That thing is so funny. And then I think that like for them to do the mystery about who's the one in charge the entire way through the show, and then for in the second to last episode, her show her the picture and him just be like, "Oh, that's Kingpin," and then it's just Vincent D'Onofrio.
Hmm.
Like that was great. Um, it's a shame we don't know when this character's coming back, in the way we know about when a lot of the other characters are coming back.
Hmm.
Um, because I think that she's probably one of the most welcome additions in this. Um, and then Wakanda Forever. The only reason it wasn't number one is I feel like they short shafted Ironheart quite a bit. Um, she doesn't have a ton to do in the movie. She's just a MacGuffin, like a human version of
Hmm.
a MacGuffin. She's the thing that's there to be kept alive. Namor is great. I love Namor in this movie. Um and it it ends on such a great like the tribute to Chadwick Boseman is great too. Um it is just it's a really special movie. Um and I did not cry. I almost cried.
Oh
But
my
I did not.
goodness, that I'm probably gonna bawl my eyes out like a big old baby.
You know what movie did make me cry this year? Clerks 3.
Really?
Yes.
That's
Um
funny.
do you want me to spoil it for you?
I probably won't go see it, sure.
It's already out on DVD. But what happened was, it opens with Randall having a heart attack, and the entire way through is him making a movie about working in a convenience store. So it's them making clerks. Um, and then at the end, Dante has a heart attack, and after ranting at Randall about how Randall's self-centered and all that, so
Hmm.
Randall cuts together a cut of the movie, and it's Dante on his deathbed in the hospital watching it, and it's all just clips from the first movie, and then some from Clerks too,
Hmm.
as he's dying, and Rosario Dawson's already dead at that point, because they killed her off between movies, and it's just the two of them sitting in this big movie theater together, watching like his life flash before his eyes. It's so
Hmm,
great.
that's cute.
Yeah. Um, yeah, that got me a little bit. But they did something similar at the end of Wakanda Forever, where they show flashbacks to Chadwick Boseman all through everything, just over silence. It
Hmm.
almost got me, but I was in a theater full of people, so I was less comfortable crying in public. It's like in the Heights when In the Heights got me, I was the only person in that theater, so I was totally fine with it. But this one, no, I wasn't gonna do that in public. So yeah, do you have any additional thoughts on Hawkeye?
We moved on to Wakanda Forever,
Okay,
right?
yeah. Well, they're tied.
Yeah.
They both have 17 points.
Okay. So now we're on to What If.
Yes, What If and Eternals and She-Hulk are all tied at 18. Now, this is something where it's great because if you look at the point breakdown, the split between them is so different. I hated What If. I watched it every week and I was like, when is this gonna get good? And it did for the last two episodes. I will give it that. The last two episodes are great. And I
No,
did
I
really
loved it.
I loved Strange Supreme. I did not like the zombie episode.
I loved the zombie
I
episode.
did not like the one with Hank Pym killing all the Avengers. Did not care for the Killmonger episode.
Oh, I liked
Hated
it.
the Bro Thor episode.
I thought the animation was great.
See that
I
was the other
thought
thing
there
that
was,
saved it for me.
yeah, I thought there was a lot of like effort and thought into put into those questions of what if. I loved the what if zombies. I'd watch a whole series about what if zombies.
Well, get the fuck
Um,
ready, because that is coming.
Yay. Um, and then loved the I liked them all. And then I liked how they
2024.
wrapped it all up at the end. I would have been totally fine with just a what if as being a bunch of different things.
See, like that one,
But
like one of the things that really stuck with me was like the Ultron getting the Infinity Gauntlet. I loved that idea, and like
hmm
the idea of Thanos coming to Earth and him just bisecting him as graphically as they did, and then just taking the rest of them. Just great.
I loved the idea of the Black Panther guy just being such a wonderful person that he made all these bad folks from the things that we know
Oh yeah,
be
that
good guys. I loved that. I thought that was so cute.
like see, and the thing is, it's like I just a lot of the issues with it for me, where I think that there was one episode in the entire thing where
Mhm.
things kind of followed the logic the way that the initial thing it's based on followed the logic. Like I think that was the first episode. Really, it was two episodes. It was the first episode with Captain Carter, where it's the change is that it's her who gets the serum, not Steve, and then everything else that kind of happens similar, and the only changes that happen are because you have that change. And I think similarly, the Strange Supreme episode, I don't understand why in that universe Christine dying is a fixed point in time when it's not anywhere else in the multiverse, according to Multiverse of Madness. But for some fucking reason, that one it's a fixed point. Um, and I like that was cool, but like the episode with all the Avengers get killed by Pym, it's like why would everything else kind of change the way it does? It doesn't quite unfold the right way. Like, how does Pym know to kill Thor when Thor comes to Earth? Like, it's all things like that that kind of like, if you're gonna do a what if for me, it's like you're changing one thing. Anything else that changes has to be tied to that one initial change, and not just well, we want to tell a different story now, so we're gonna change everything as we need. Um,
I liked it.
and the Party Thor episode was just an abomination. The
I
one where
thought it
Thor
was
comes to Earth and
cute.
throws a rager.
It's the only thing out of the entire. All of them. I've not rewatched anything except for What If.
Really?
Yes.
I've rewatched the finale of Loki at least twice.
No, I've not done any.
We will get to that in a little bit. Now I'm gonna not do Eternals because it's just alphabetical here, or I don't know
Mm-hmm.
how the fuck they determine what goes where on this list. To be completely honest, when you I sorted it by the total, but for some reason it's She-Hulk, Eternals, What If. I'm gonna do She-Hulk next because while you gave What If 16 points and I gave it 2,
Mm-hmm.
for She-Hulk I gave it 16 points and you gave it 2. So I'm gonna let you say what the fuck to me for that choice now because you apparently hated She-Hulk, while I did not.
I did not hate She-Hulk. I just didn't really like it.
Okay, you don't have strong feelings on it.
Yeah.
Okay,
I just thought it was boring and like it wasn't even like other things on the list where it was like, oh yeah, this is cute. It made me smile. They kind of got a little too political for my taste. And then um she's just not a great character for fourth wall breaking, I guess. I don't know. I wasn't into She-Hulk. I think they did a great job on it. Like, I don't think that the writing was horrible. I just think it was not my thing.
I think for me, the like a lot of people had an issue with the effects. I don't have that issue. I can look past effects and graphics and all of that. I'm not the person who sits here and bitches about frame rates for video games. Like I'm playing Pokemon Violet, and I'm having a fucking blast. And there are so many issues with that. I watch the CW shows for DC, and they don't look the best. I'm not a stickler for good graphics. That said, they don't do a good enough job of creating a narrative reason why she needs to be She-Hulk 100% of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they really sell that. But I think that She-Hulk's finale does a long way in kind of fixing the show. The Daredevil episode is great. Um,
I did think that was
I think
kind
the
of cool.
Daredevil episode is the strongest single episode that they did in Phase 4. Like, of any, I can't think of another episode that I'd rather rewatch besides maybe the Loki finale.
Mm-hmm.
That does that as well. But the finale of this does a lot to kind of make fun of all the other finales because
Mm-hmm.
like they do that thing where it's like, why is this person here? Okay, so now it's a giant CGI clusterfuck of a finale where the bad guy is someone with the exact same powers because that's what Moon Knight was, that's what Miss Marvel was, that's what WandaVision was, that's what Falcon
Mm-hmm.
and the Winter Soldier was. It's it's the exact same thing, and for them to do it there, it does kind of make those other things better because it seems like it was building toward that joke in this because
Mm-hmm.
after seeing it all there, and then when they do it there, and it's like, wait, no, stop, we can't keep fucking doing this. And then she breaks out, and then goes to that, and goes to talk to an AI that creates everything, and that's making fun of Kevin Feige. Like, I thought that all of that worked. Um, I just, and the thing is too, you do have to kind of reframe how you watch the show because I think
Mm-hmm.
that what a lot of people went into it was, what's the continuity? Like, how does the continuity work for this? Where does this fit into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? If you watch it as a workplace comedy, like a sitcom,
Mm-hmm.
I think it works a lot
That's
better.
kind of why what I wanted it to be, but I feel like it didn't quite hit the mark.
I think that they don't like. I think that their building to the joke in the finale was
Mm-hmm.
kind of to the show's detriment because them trying to throughout the show kind of thread a needle that ultimately leads to nowhere. It works in a meta sense for the rest of their shows, but it doesn't work within the confines of this one show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think that and I think Tatiana Maslany is also great. And again, actors are coming in and doing great work. I think that this
Mm-hmm.
is probably my favorite iteration of Daredevil. Is the
I think
version we
it's just
got
poor
him.
writing.
It's the closest Daredevil to the comics that I can see because the Daredevil on the show is great on the Netflix show that's now on Disney Plus. He's great in there. That's very much the Frank Miller Daredevil, the very serious, the very dour, the almost Batman like demeanor. that we get there. Um, it that's very much that. This is closer to Daredevil in literally any other iteration, like where he's kind of a man whore. Like it's so great.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they do it very well. Like, he comes in the courtroom. He's a great lawyer and all of that. Like I'm all for that. And Tatiana Maslany, she's great in the show too. She's another great addition. I want to see her do more. Um, and I think the other thing that really helped the show a little bit was the way they addressed the trolls, almost as if, because the thing is, at this point, the trolling is so predictable. They know what's going to happen at which point in one episodes,
Mm-hmm.
so they can have it reflected what appears to be real time, but it's just they're so predictable that you know what's going to happen in advance, so they can work it into the episodes as they go.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like the things that I was hearing about She-Hulk from people at work who hated it, um, because of the more political aspects of it, was being reflected in episodes that week, and then they came in pissed, and I was like, it's just making the show better.
That's funny.
And people just didn't like being the bad guy. And then the other one at the same 18-point mark is Eternals, which you did not like as much, but I did really like. But it's one of those things where I think it's ambition. It should have been a miniseries. Eternals should have been a Disney Plus show.
I thought it was kind of cool, but I wasn't like super duper into it. It seemed to not really fit.
I
So,
think that that's the thing, is that that's one of the other things that I really noticed with what Marvel's been doing lately, is that they're letting directors come in, and this is a great thing. I'm not saying this is a bad thing. They're letting directors come in and put their stamp on stuff.
mm-hmm.
It like, this is very much a Chloe Zhao movie, in the same way that Guardians 3 is very much a James Gunn movie, and Love and Thunder is very much a Taika Waititi movie. This is very much Chloe Zhao doing what Chloe Zhao wants, almost to a fault, where it's like, look, let's scale it back a little bit, or give
Mm-hmm.
her a miniseries to tell this story, because this is a huge story with a lot of characters that could have been fleshed out better.
Yeah, I could have been more into it. I feel like it required like falling in love with the characters, which was difficult to do in the amount of time.
Exactly. We have a cast of 12 in a 2.5 hour movie.
Yes, and you're like, "Oh, and which one was that died?"
Right, exactly. But like, again, Gemma Chan's a great addition. I loved her as Cersei. I liked Kumail Nanjiani as
Mhm.
Kingo. He's really funny the entire way through that movie. If there's one actor who, if I never see again, I'll be very happy, it's Barry Keoghan,
Mhm.
who plays Druig and also plays the Joker in the Batman.
Mhm.
I have never seen him in something and thought he was a supplement to the movie. Um, so I could do without him in basically everything else. Um, and then but yeah, I mean, the movie's really cool, and I really love the way they make the effects look. But the fact that they need to flash back to tell the story of these people, um, again, in a 2.5 hour movie, you're playing against the clock.
Yeah.
So like, flashing back to Nagasaki and Hiroshima, flashing back to Babylon, flashing back to Central America, like all of these things are kind of like incredibly important for the story, but at the same time, you don't have the time to do it in this space.
Mhm.
Um, any other thoughts before I move on to the next one?
Nope.
Okay, so number 8 is Werewolf by Night, or number 7. Well, whatever. It has 19 points. We're all fucked up here because there are so many ties. Werewolf by Night. You had it at 7 points. I had it at 12. I really like the style. I love Universal monster movies. I feel like they nailed that. Um, I love the more occult aspects of the Marvel universe, and I feel like they did a lot of that too. Um, and again, Gael Garcia Bernal, great addition. Um, Laura Donnelly, I think is the name of the actress who plays Elsa, another great addition. Um, both, I want to see this go forward. I want to see this aspect of the universe get bigger. I want to see them really dive more into it, especially with Blade coming, and with Moon Knight being what it was, maybe they can go this way with Moon Knight too. Have him go with a more monster approach.
Mhm.
Any thoughts on your end?
I can see the appeal. It just wasn't really my thing.
Okay.
Like I like the story and everything. I don't know. I just wasn't super into it. Maybe I wasn't
And the thing is
as
too, it's like the special presentation format that we have here, because then the next one up is the Guardians Holiday Special at 20 points. Um, this special presentation format is a great idea.
hmm
I think arguably it's better than the miniseries idea because we don't need full movies for a lot of these things. Um, but like imagine the X-Men instead of having to spend time in an X-Men movie introducing Jean Grey and introducing Cyclops and telling their backstory. Imagine they did them as special presentations.
hmm
And it's like a half hour. Here is Scott Summers being introduced as a mutant and him doing his backstory there. Or here is or like, instead of doing a full Nova movie before we introduce Nova somewhere, they do a 1 hour, just the decimation of Xandar before Infinity War.
hmm
Like just problem solved. And the Guardians Holiday Special, I didn't hate. I just thought it could have been better.
I thought it was really cute. Made
Um,
me smile.
I think my only issue with it is um the emotional arc of the special is Mantis. Mantis is kind of the entire thing this movie focuses around.
But I thought it
Um,
was really cute.
well, no, that wasn't my issue. My issue was that the emotional arc of the movie is Mantis coming to terms with the fact that she is Peter's sister,
hmm
like, and coming to terms with that, and then making the decision to tell him. That's what the emotional arc of the movie is.
hmm
Um, and I feel like it's not really grappled with enough within the context of the movie. So that way, by the time we get to the end and she makes the decision to tell him, it's like, oh yeah, I forgot they had that conversation in the beginning about that. And I feel like Drax is not the person to have that conversation with because
But that's
Drax
her
is,
friend.
no, I know, but I think that Drax is not equipped for emotional moments.
hmm
I would have done Rocket. I think it's
No,
be like,
they're
well,
not
why not?
friends.
Well, I mean, at this point, they've been
At that
fucking,
point, it might as well have been Groot. Like,
it could have been. I think anyone. I think there are two characters that
but I
shouldn't have
thought
been the
it
person
was
to have that
funny.
conversation. You can't have that conversation with Star Lord, and you can't have that conversation with Drax because I think that Drax doesn't have the emotional maturity to have that conversation.
No, and I think that's what makes it so funny.
I get that it's meant to be funny. I just think that if you're gonna make
I
that be
think they
the,
were making something that could have been really serious and dramatic into something that
I'm
was
not saying it has
very
to be over
satire
dramatic.
and fun and light.
I
So
know
I
my
liked
list
it.
makes it sound like everything needs to be over dramatic and ridiculous, but like
hmm
I would have liked a little bit
You
more.
like a little more drama.
I would have liked, I don't
Gosh.
know, any drama in this. Like,
No, I liked the cuteness.
and my other big issue was the animated portions with Yondu
hmm
should have been stop motion. Because when I tell you Christmas special,
Yeah, that would have made a big difference. You're right. That would have been really cool.
like that, I think Rudolph, I think like Year
I
Round
think
Santa
they missed a
Claus,
pretty good opportunity to do that and make
and I
it.
and I and when I heard what it was meant to be, the
hmm
animation, I was like, all right, I see that now. It's meant to be the story of the faithful Wookiee
hmm
from the Star Wars one. And then once I saw that, and then I was like, okay, that kind of makes sense. I can see what they're doing there. I
hmm
still feel like it would have been better. And the soundtrack's great. The soundtrack is
You're right.
phenomenal.
It would have been better with stop motion. They missed a
Um,
pretty good opportunity there.
yeah, but I mean, look, am. That's Monday morning quarterbacking. I mean,
hmm
it's not terrible. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying there was room for improvement.
I thought it was
It
really cute, and I liked that um, Kevin Bacon was in it.
Yeah, I do like that they fleshed out Mantis a little bit because Mantis never really had that opportunity because she was just kind of Ego's lackey who didn't have a
hmm
ton to do in Guardians 2. And
hmm
then she's dust in Endgame, and then in Infinity War she didn't have a ton to do either. So I think it's useful to give her this screen time and to give her this moment. Um, and I think that this is a great place to do that.
Yeah.
So now we're getting toward the end. So the next one up is Multiverse of Madness.
So I really liked Multiverse of Madness. I think we even talked about this before.
Yes,
I
it made your
thought
top. It made your top 5 at the mid year.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool. I loved the craziness of it. I know that's a lot of people's gripe about it, but that's the part that I liked. It reminded me of like the comic books that I used to read.
See, like, for me, I thought it didn't go like when you hear Multiverse of Madness, I was hoping you'd get more jumping across different universes. Um, but again, Monday morning quarterbacking. That like that's me looking at it and foisting my own expectations on the movie. For
Mm-hmm.
what we got, I really liked the fight between the Evil Strange with the music.
Mm-hmm.
That was really cool. I really liked the Illuminati. The Illuminati was cool, and the Illuminati was in the movie just enough to make it worthwhile.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I expressed my issue with Wanda when we talk about WandaVision, but I don't think that's necessarily this movie's fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if you are someone who didn't watch WandaVision and then came into this movie, you could probably be confused.
Yes.
Um, and I think that is partially this movie's fault. Um, but again, that's more with the more the way they're doing storytelling from here on out.
Yeah.
I think that it is necessary. Like I think that this is one of the. I mean, I'd say it's one of the stronger movies, but it is. There are still two movies above it. Um, and I think that it does a lot. I really like Doctor Strange as a character though.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the post credit scene introducing Clea. And I think that one of these unannounced release dates in Phase 6, I think it's going to end up being Doctor Strange 3.
Okay.
Um, but we're not going to talk about that for another few years. Um, I just want to see this world expand, I really like what they did with it. So yeah, the next two are tied in the most bizarre tie on this list. I think the tie for number three is I Am Groot and Loki. I didn't hate I Am Groot.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was cute. I
Mm-hmm.
remember when I was watching, I was like, they should have put each of these before a movie theatrically. Like, you know how
Mm-hmm.
Pixar has the shorts? Like, this should have been like,
Or like
like
they
as
used to
Marvel.
do in the theaters in the old days and stuff
Oh
where
no, they
they'd
still
play a
do
little
it.
cartoon.
They still do it. Like when you go, like when I remember seeing Incredibles 2, they played Bow before it. I cried for Bow. Um, all this thing is making me do is making me look like a giant bitch because I constantly cry at movies. Um, I went into Christopher Robin expecting to cry, and then I didn't. So I don't know if that helps. um,
Not really. I didn't cry in that one.
no, I went into it expecting to, but it didn't get me because it didn't quite. Did you ever see the meme with Winnie the Pooh up on the upper like shelf, and he's looking down at Christopher Robin, and he's like, "I have the high ground," and he's like, "Oh, shut the fuck up, Pooh." And there's another one where it's like he turns and looks at Pooh who's on the ground, and he says hello there, and Pooh says General Kenobi, and Pooh gets two more arms. It's so like that's a conversation for another time though. But yeah, I Am Groot I didn't hate. I would have preferred it was done in that manner instead of being tacked on the Disney Plus. And I also would have preferred that Disney Plus put them into one collection instead of making you go and search for them. Because
I liked it.
I was like,
Yeah,
why
I
why did you
agree.
think this was a good idea? Like
I
that's not
agree.
a problem with the movie. It's just a problem with their execution on Disney Plus. Um, I was just
But
kind of
the
confused.
shorts were really cute.
Oh yeah, like that one where he finds the city and then he accidentally kills them
Yes,
all. Like
I
that
think
one's
it's so
great.
funny.
Yeah. Like and they're all short, so you don't have a ton of time with them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a huge time commitment too. I think if they did like 30 of them, I would have gotten bored of them. I would have gotten annoyed very quick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but for what they are, they're great. Um, and Marvel did do shorts for a while. I don't know if you remember on the DVDs they had these one
Yeah.
shots. Um, which one of them, What If, used. Like one of the What Ifs, the one where Hank Pym comes back, that's not based on a movie. That's based on a funny thing happened on the way to Thor's hammer, which is a
Oh,
one shot. Um, and Loki, I cannot talk highly enough about Loki. I loved Loki.
I liked Loki a lot too. It
I
doesn't
went
show in
into
my
it
rankings, but
yeah,
I
no.
did like it.
I went into it expecting very little. Um, but like for me, that last episode, like we talk a lot about the idea of a zero issue in comics. This idea that we're going to like introduce you to the world and kind of where we're going from here. This is the zero issue for the multiverse saga,
Hmm.
which is phases 4, 5, and 6, where it's like what we have going on here. This is going to show you everything that's that we need to know about this, and like the whole final episode not being this giant clusterfuck of a fight, and it's just Loki and Sylvie talking about the issue that comes with ending the idea of the sacred timeline and talking to this variant of Kang the Conqueror. Um, which really my only issue with it was that they announced that Jonathan Majors was playing Kang the Conqueror at Investor Day
Hmm.
before this came out, because like he got that line, like you can tell the show is playing it close to the vest that he's Kang. Um, where it's like he's talking about it, and Jonathan Majors is just holding an acting clinic in this episode where he's telling the story, he's jumping all over the table and he's like, doing all that. When he's
Hmm.
talking about like how he meets his other variants, he's like, it was very congratulatory. We were doing a great job. And then, I've been called many things over my life, a warlord, a conqueror, and all of that. And it's like, I think that had they not announced that he was playing Kang, that that would have played better. And then on top of that, the trailer for Quantumania would have been so much cooler. Have you seen the trailer for Quantumania yet?
No.
Oh my god! When you see Avatar, or when you see Black Panther, whichever one you see first in the coming few weeks,
The Wakanda Forever.
yeah, they're definitely gonna show the trailer before it.
Okay.
The trailer shows him in full costume as Kang the Conqueror.
Hmm. Who's
That
King the
was amazing.
Conqueror?
Kang is he is um
And
Reed
which one is he in
Richardson's
Loki?
the He Who Remains in the finale.
Oh.
Yeah. Um
Oh.
but like he is like
I
the
just
like,
love the whole thing where Loki fell in love with himself.
and I think that that's so perfect for the character,
It really is.
because like the only person he could ever love is another version of himself. And
Hmm.
again, Sophia DiMartino is another great addition, and I think that that's kind of the thing that we're getting from Phase 4, is introducing everyone and having the audience fall in love with all these characters.
Hmm.
Because I don't think there's a single new addition who's going to be a major player going forward who I didn't like,
Hmm.
in the way that like I didn't particularly care for Terrence Howard and I didn't particularly care for Ed Norton.
Hmm.
And it took some getting used to Jeremy Renner.
Hmm.
But I don't think you have any of that here, and I think everyone they introduce here is great. Like that whole
Yeah.
thing with classic Loki,
I
and
think
the
it's really fun.
yeah,
And it's a lot easier to, I think it's a fantastic introduction into all the multiverse stuff.
exactly, and I think it works so well. And then um, what's it called? And I think we're gonna get to. I think it's telling too that when we look at the top view for us, it's all things that have these huge implications very overtly going forward.
Hmm.
Because I Am Groot is kind of the outlier in that. But the next one, Shang-Chi, arguably has the most consequential post-credit scene of any of the movies in Phase 4.
I don't even remember what it was.
Okay, so there are two. The second post-credit scene is what's it called? It is Abomination and Wong. But the first post-credit scene is right after the movie ends. Like, you know how the movie ends and they're having the conversation and they're telling their story. It's Katie and Shang-Chi telling their story to their friends, and their friends are like, "You don't have to make shit up. You can just like you can just say you're still working at the fucking hotel." And then the post-credit scene is Wong shows up and says, "We need to talk right now. So come with us to come with us to the sanctum." And like they're getting up to leave, and then like he gets this shit eating grin on his face as he looks at his friends. He's like, "We'll Venmo you for the drinks," and then they walk out, and they go to the sanctum, and in the sanctum it's Wong, it's Captain Marvel, and it's Bruce via hologram, standing around this table, and they're like, "Look, you have these rings. We don't know where the fuck they came from." And like even Captain Marvel's like, yeah, we have nothing like this in space. There's like we like
I
there are these
don't think I watched the post-credit scenes.
yeah, it's like we don't know what the fuck this thing is. we know it's emitting some kind of beacon, but we don't know where it's going because it's not going into deep space, and if it is, it's not being received by anything. So we don't know
Hmm.
what's going on. So you need to keep a very close eye on this because shit could get real very quickly.
Hmm.
And then it's elaborated further in the post-credit scene for Miss Marvel, where her thing starts glowing, like the bangle starts glowing, and she gets up,
Hmm.
and then she gets pulled into the closet and comes back out, and it's what's it called? It's Captain Marvel,
Hmm.
and the bangle and the 10 rings have the same markings on the prison cage that Kang is being held in Quantumania.
Oh, that's cool.
And in the Quantumania trailer, it's like Cassie made this thing. It's like a beacon into the quantum realm,
Hmm.
and Hope's not Hope. Janet's like, you have to turn that off right now before it fucks up and they all get sucked into the. That's gonna be a great movie, I think. But
Hmm.
Shang-Chi on its own is still the strongest standalone movie, I think, because the
I
number one
really
movie
liked it.
we can't count it as a standalone number one movie. It's a crossover, but
Hmm.
Shang-Chi is the strongest of the standalone movies in this phase. Like,
I really liked it. I thought it was really good. And a lot of people who don't, I've noticed that a lot of people who don't actually like Marvel movies liked this movie.
yeah, I think it works as a kung fu movie. It's great, and like
Hmm.
everything about it's great. The family aspect is so well done.
Hmm.
Um, I and again, if
Great
I have
music,
one,
great choreography. Like it was,
yes, the fights are all
and then
great,
there was plenty of funny spots.
and I think that like Aquafina is definitely Aquafina went to U Albany.
No, I didn't know that. But
Yeah,
she's hilarious and I love her.
yeah,
She's also in Crazy Rich Asians and she's
yes.
so funny.
She was good
I
in
love that movie.
Ocean's 8 too.
Was she? Oh,
Yeah.
I
She's
like
like
her.
a street like con man kind of thing is what she does, where it's
Hmm.
like she does
She's
like
also
the
the dragon in that other Disney movie.
Raya and the Last Dragon,
Hmm.
and she was in
And which
The
I
Nice
only
Guys.
watched because she was in it. I didn't know she went to Albany.
Yeah, she did. I didn't know until they send the alumni magazine in the mail. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, Josie and I met freshman year of college. We both went to U Albany.
A long
Um,
time ago.
yeah, 10 years ago. Um, so and here we are, still talking
Hmm.
about it's almost as if nothing has changed in 10 years. Um,
Um, not on
well,
my
I don't
side.
know. Well, 10 years ago, where we were sitting around at the well, no, I think one or both of us was drunk at this point 10 years ago. Um, when we were just hanging around doing very little. Well, I mean, and talking about Marvel movies, kind of the same thing.
Sure.
Um, but yeah, Shang-Chi was great, and the number one movie. I'm surprised you didn't have it higher. No Way Home.
No Way Home was cute. I'm not a huge fan of Spider-Man
Okay, that'll do
ever.
it.
So, or any of them. But I thought it was cute and I liked it. I actually liked this Spider-Man movie, so that's new for me.
Like I love the dynamic. And I think that the Spider-Man movies that they've done with Marvel Studios have been kind of a highlight
Hmm.
for Marvel or for the character Spider-Man. And I think that this one doesn't have the problem I have with the first two, where the first half of the movie is just kind of really fucking boring, and then you get to the second half and it's like great. Like when you watch Far From Home, there's a very clear demarcation line in the middle of the movie. After that point, the movie is some of the best Marvel things they've ever done. But before that, it's just a slog to get through. And it's the point where Mysterio gets the glasses and then Spider-Man leaves. And he's like, someone get this stupid costume off me. And they do the big reveal about how he was conning him the entire time. Like,
I don't even remember.
from that scene on, the movie's great. But before that, it's just so boring. This doesn't have that. I like that they were very quick to resolve the legal issue. I didn't want them to linger on that too much.
Hmm.
Um, and I did like all the returning cast were great. Um, the dynamic between the Peters was all fun. Um, I think that the what's it called? The what was the
I
other thing
like
that I
the
really liked?
scene where they saved her and he got
Yes,
his like he got to
he's like
save her.
yo, and she's like,
And then he just
"Are you
cries.
okay?" Yeah,
Oh my God, that had me crying.
like,
Oh, like a
and I
baby.
think the thing is too. I rewatched not recently, but fairly recently, I rewatched Amazing Spider-Man 2. I
Hmm.
think that movie got a lot of shit that it really didn't deserve.
Yeah, that was one of my, that was probably my second, well, before this new Peter, I liked that one better
Like,
than
because
the
it's
other
like that
ones.
movie's not terrible, and it's like the scene of Mary, not Mary Jane, of Gwen Stacy dying is so well done.
Hmm.
And then like all of the fights with Electro, like I would say the fight choreography for the Electro fights is better than what they've done in most of the MCU with
Hmm.
Spider-Man. Like at least they're creatively using the swinging and all of that, where it's like Spider-Man's just punching in the Marvel stuff in the Marvel Studios stuff. Like I think it's just very well executed. Um, it I just love that movie. That's one that I can rewatch, and like him in the what's it called in the not the negative zone, the in the mirror dimension. The fight in the mirror dimension is just so.
It
Anytime they do
is
the mirror
cool.
dimension, I'm all for it. But then like when he's like, oh wait, it's just math, and he goes and he beats Strange with that. It's so well done.
It is
Um,
cool.
yeah, I'm all for that. I hope they do more of that. But looking forward to Phase 5 now that we have our rankings. And just one more time for those who for those at home. Um, at the bottom we have Moon Knight and Miss Marvel with 5 points, then Love and Thunder with 11 points, then WandaVision with 13 points, then Black Widow and Falcon and the Winter Soldier tied at 14 points, then Hawkeye and Wakanda Forever tied at 17 points, then What If Eternals She-Hulk tied at 18 points, Werewolf by Night with 19 points, Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special at 20 points, Multiverse of Madness at 22 points. Again, it baffles me, but I Am Groot and Loki tied at 24 points at number three. Shang-Chi with 26 points, and No Way Home with 29 points at number one. So looking at Phase 5, so let's look at what we have coming out with Phase 5. So Phase 5, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania leading off the year. Next year. Then Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, then The Marvels. Those are next year's three movies. February, May, and July. Any thoughts on any of those?
I don't even know what you're talking about.
Okay, so Quantumania is the Ant-Man and the Wasp movie. It's Ant-Man and the Wasp 3. They're going to go to the quantum realm. MODOK's in the movie. Kang the Conqueror's in the movie. It's really going to set in motion a lot of what's going forward for Ant-Man and the Wasp. And Marvel Cinematic Universe at large. Guardians of the Galaxy 3, the bad guy is going to be the High Evolutionary, who created Rocket.
Oh, that's cool.
Rocket's gonna get a lot of screen time. I don't think Rocket's making it out of the movie alive. So start mentally
Oh,
preparing for that. And
but
they're
we're
gonna
gonna
be
get to see his girlfriend, and that'll be
yes,
cute. There'll be so much fuel for the furries.
yes, there will be. Did you hear who's voicing the girlfriend?
No,
Lady Gaga.
it's Lady Gaga.
Yes,
Oh,
and
that'll be
then
cool.
and also Gamora is gonna be back, but they have to find Gamora, who's now leading a team of Ravagers because
That's cool.
Gamora somehow survived.
No, she didn't survive. They grabbed one from a different universe.
Right. See, and that therein lies my thing is that how specific was Tony with the Infinity Gauntlet that she survived? Because she
They
came with
were he well, no, they didn't set people back. They grabbed her out of a different universe, and so
right.
he
It's
reset it to make sure that people before that time, so she wouldn't even have been involved in it.
no, I'm saying she's the one that was with Thanos from 2014 because it's Thanos from before she meets Quill by like a
Oh,
week.
yes, in the different timeline.
Right. So they come to 2023 or 2024, which is when Endgame takes place. And then Tony at the end of the movie snaps to kill all of Thanos's
Well,
minions.
he just created a she her alliance was changed. We've talked about this.
We have, but I still don't buy it.
No, her alliance was changed. She wasn't one of his.
Then is the Marvels, which is Captain Marvel 2, but it also features Iman Vellani coming back
Captain Mar
as
isn't oh
Miss Marvel.
Isn't Captain America dead?
We'll get into that. That's in 2025. Then also in that movie is what's her name from Monica from WandaVision is also in that movie, The Marvels. Monica Rambeau, who got her powers at the end.
Oh,
Remember, she walked through the wall of the hex and got her powers.
sure.
Okay, well, and then after that in 2025 is Captain America: New World Order, which will be Sam as Captain America fighting the leader, who is it is Tim Blake Nelson coming back from the Incredible Hulk. Um, and that's gonna be cool. Then Thunderbolts, which there's a lot of Thunderbolts set up in Wakanda Forever, and that's all I'll say until you see the movie. And Blade will be wrapping up the movies in Phase 5. In terms of shows, early next year we're getting What If Season 2. We don't know exactly when yet, but What If Season 2 is coming early next year.
That'll
Um,
be cool.
the Secret Invasion show is coming in early next year too. That is Nick Fury trying to root out Skrulls who have infiltrated the world, like governments of the world and stuff.
Cool.
Emilia Clarke is in it too, in an undisclosed role. From Game of Thrones and Terminator and
Sure.
Solo. Okay. Echo. You remember the girl who shot Kingpin?
Nope. Yes.
She is getting her own show.
That'll be cool.
Also featuring Charlie Cox coming back as Daredevil and Vincent
Cool.
D'Onofrio coming back as Kingpin. And allegedly John Bernthal coming back as the Punisher.
Hmm.
Loki season 2, which is gonna be cool.
That will be cool.
Ironheart is getting her own show.
That'll be
Um,
cool.
so yeah, I really liked her. What little bit she had in Wakanda Forever. I hope the suit looks better because I cannot stress this enough. The suit she had at the end of the movie looked like absolute shit.
So, do you have a picture of that?
Um, Ironheart, Wakanda Forever. I'll bring it up for you. Um, those are old quotes.
I
Here it is.
think
This is it right
based
here.
based on the cards in that they've
Marvel Snap.
released in Marvel Snap, I think based on that she will be receiving a new outfit.
I certainly hope so because that costume was terrible. And the same goes for the Midnight Angels. But yeah, that's coming out next year. And Anthony Ramos from In the Heights is playing the bad guy, and allegedly Sacha Baron Cohen is playing Mephisto in that as well. But we've been on Mephisto watch so many fucking times. I hope it's not true because I want people to keep speculating about when Mephisto's going to show up. Um, Agatha Coven of Chaos, which is a sequel to WandaVision about Agatha Harkness, will
Mm,
be late 2023, early 2024, which is going to be Aubrey Plaza is also going to be in it from Parks and Rec.
okay, I might be more into it.
Um, yeah, could be cool.
I
And,
like
and
her.
and Coven of Chaos, I think that this could be the resurrection of Wanda.
Oh,
Um, and then
oh,
the
that'd be
show that
cool.
the show I'm most interested in, the Daredevil continuation, Daredevil Born Again, because I think
Cool.
that anyone who's listened to this show knows I loved Daredevil on Netflix. Like it is great. And allegedly, the girl who played Wednesday Adams
Mm-hmm.
in the new show, she's gonna be in it allegedly
Oh, cool.
as White
I
Tiger.
liked her. I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, so that's
I
that's
think
gonna be
she's
cool.
a good little actress.
She's like in her mid 20s.
I know, but she's tiny.
Um, Also in terms of animation, there's also the Marvel Zombie show. I don't know how canon that's gonna be to anything else, but the Marvel Zombie show is coming. X-Men '97, which is a continuation of the animated X-Men show from the '90s that aired on Fox, and then also the Spider-Man prequel show about Spider-Man, like Spider-Man Year One, basically how he got his powers, him training with Matt Murdock to become a fighter, and some of his villains will be in that as well as like Harry Osborn and a few other Spider-Man adjacent characters who didn't quite get the screen time. And there's one movie we forgot that because it hasn't been formally announced yet, but I'm fairly confident. In between Thunderbolts and Blade, Oh no, in between New World Order and Thunderbolts is Spider-Man 4 because
Oh.
there's a date there held that says untitled Sony Marvel co-production, and it's like, well, fuck, just say it's Spider-Man 4. We know what this is,
Mm-hmm.
like because Sony and Marvel don't do anything besides the Spider-Man movies. Um, so yeah, that's gonna be announced at some point in the near future, but I think it's early June 2024. So any of that piques your interest?
I said what I had to say when they were announced, I think. Yeah, there was a few things. I'm definitely interested in the what if. Um, and the Guardians of the Galaxy.
It'll be cool. It's not a quiz where I'm gonna be like wrong.
Hmm?
Like you made it sound like it's like you're waiting for me to be like, yes, you're right.
No, I just said what I was. I can't read it. I have a thing
Oh,
in the
okay.
way,
Oh, okay. So
and now
yeah.
I can't move it for some reason.
All
I
right.
don't know.
Well, either way, we're done with that anyway. So
Okay.
that was the Phase 4 wrap-up show. Josie will be back for the Christmas special
Okay.
at some point. She's saying this like she just found out now.
Mm-hmm.
And the year-end wrap-up, which I think that I definitely told you about this before this point on the show,
Probably.
perhaps. Yeah. And the year in review.
Okay.
Um, but yeah. So we will wrap up there for today. And until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.
Bye.
Where the fuck's the stop recording button?